name is Mackenzie. Welcome back to my channel, and thank you so much for being here. Today, we are going to figure out if this author is a favorite author. Christina Henry. So I have with me right now The Tale of Sleepy Hollow, a Horseman, Tale of Sleepy Hollow retelling. I'm getting mixed up. Look at the cover, though. Can we just enjoy the cover, look at it, see the horse, feel the vibes? Excuse me? Last month, I put out a video talking about my favorite authors and almost favorite authors, and I listed a few almost favorite authors, a favorite author being, for me, someone whom I've enjoyed 3 of their works, and I don't even want to just say enjoyed, but like truly enjoyed, and now I am excited and ready for their next work. So on that list, I had quite a few authors who were almost favorite authors, and amongst that list was Christina Henry. So let's just talk about my Christina Henry journey really quickly. Now, we all know, and if you don't know, now you know, I love a retelling. I love a good retelling. I love the twistiness. I love what you change. I love what you don't. I love seeing what is important from the original myth, story, legend to someone and what could stand to be changed. So when I saw this little beauty just sitting on the shelf at Barnes & Noble, I was like, oh my god, let's read it. So I did. I picked it up. This is Alice. It is the first in a trilogy. Did I know that when I picked it up? No. Did I realize it after I finished the book? No. Have I read the other 2 in the series? No. Just pats on the back for Mackenzie. So this book is about Alice. We open up the story with her, and she is in a prison, basically. She has a cellmate, not really a cellmate, but someone in the opposite cell to hers, like their cells are right next to each other, and they can speak to each other through like this little hole, and they've basically been keeping each other like sane throughout the whole time that they've been in jail, because I think they've been in jail for like a couple years now. Oh, it's a hospital? It definitely feels like a jail. Anyways, a fire breaks out, and the guy on the other side of the cell is able to get out of his cell, and he helps her out of her cell. And then they're on the run, because basically, I don't even think we know that her name is Alice for a very long time. The rabbit is after Alice, the white rabbit. He's the bad guy of this whole story. I will give content warnings for sexual abuse, trauma, PTSD, all of that kind of stuff. It's in here. It's really rough. It's really rough. I did not realize that it was going to be that rough. And I had to literally put it down a couple of times. But, however, and Christina Henry never put sexual abuse and trauma in her books without it feeling like justice has been gotten, you know? Like, it just feels like it's here because it's awful, because it's real, and because it creates this kind of storyline, but also it's not just here, and we're never going to address it again. We're not just slightly triggering you for no reason, and that's what I appreciated. This story was very, very interesting. It was fast-paced. We follow Alice and her friend. Is he supposed to be the Hatter? I don't think so. Maybe he is. I forget. It's been years since I read this book, and I might reread it because I do want to finish the series, and the only way to, would do that is I'd have to reread this. It's literally been years. I think I read this in 2018. Horrifying, really. Very good. I forget what I would give it. Since I don't really remember too much of it, maybe it was like a 4-star at the time I read it. I don't know what I'd give it now, though. I always do this thing when I tab a book. I put tabs somewhere in the back cover or the front cover to let me know what the tabs mean. Otherwise, I just have, colorful tabs, and they're colorful, but I have no idea what they mean. Second book that I read from Christina Henry is called Lost Boy, The True Story of Captain Hook. All children grow up except one. God, I loved this one. This was horrifying. This was graphic. No sexual abuse or anything like that, but like definitely content warnings, because this is like child on child abuse. Like, they literally like fight to the death sometimes. Like, it's rough. It's really like Lord of the Flies meets Peter Pan, and if Peter wasn't really necessarily the nicest kid that we knew, even in the movie he wasn't like that nice. I never read the original Peter Pan by JM Barrie, but the movie made him seem like he was, kind of a punk, but in this he was definitely like an asshole, and he has lived forever and has been a child forever, And I think that there is an amount of aggression that he has. Like, it's just so interesting. I really enjoyed this one. So this one doesn't count for a full work that I've enjoyed because there's like 2 other books in this series to complete the work. So I can't count this one, but I did enjoy it. So this one is the first one that counts, one that I do enjoy. And the second one that I have enjoyed is Near the Bone. I almost said by Christina Henry. This whole video is about Christina Henry. Yeah. So in this one, this is not a retelling. This is just a straight up horror novel. And then it feels like it becomes a slasher at the end. I freaking love this book. So definitely content warnings for sexual abuse. There is kind of like PTSD. It's very interesting, this book, because it's not a mystery. Like, you definitely know what's going on from the get, basically. So basically, she lives on the mountain with William, and she can only remember ever living on the mountain with William. They only live alone, and he gets upset very easily, and also he gets upset if he thinks anyone else is on the mountain with them. Maddie discovers a mutilated fox body in the woods, like a fox, and she's like, there's someone else on the mountain with us, and she starts to get freaked out because she doesn't want William to get freaked out. And like, I don't want to tell you anything else. I feel like telling you what's on the back is the safest because I read the back a bunch of times before I read the book, and the book still threw me. I mean, you're not supposed to, it's not a mystery, like I said, you know what's happening, but you still just need to figure out what happens at the end, and like, because you know what happened, but then when you find out, like, when they go through the details of what happened, you're just like, oh my God, it's definitely horrific, and then at the end, it's so horrific, it's very good. So these are the 2 works that I have enjoyed by her. I want to read the rest of the Alice series, but that's probably going to come at a later date because that is 2 whole books that I would need to read, as opposed to this one, which is not 2 whole books. It is just 1 book. And also it's Sleepy Hollow. Okay, I don't feel like I've read the original Sleepy Hollow. I'm going to see if I could find maybe an audio or an ebook of it and try and get that done real fast within this vlog. I am also going to watch the Sleepy Hollow movie again. I have watched it because I love watching anything with Johnny Depp in it. Don't come for me. And I watched it and I loved it. I enjoyed it. If the movie is anything like the book, then I pretty much know all the things that happened. As we've seen with my book versus adaptation videos, that it's not always the case. Basically, it's just the skeleton of the story. But I feel like this doesn't need me to have read the entirety of Sleepy Hollow for me to get it. I feel like we are going to take a play on it just like always. I didn't need to read the original Peter Pan to really enjoy this retelling. And because this is going to be in a similar vein where like I just generally know the story, I've watched the movie, you know, I feel like I'll be fine. But I do want to see if I can, if it's not too long, I'll squeeze it into this vlog. It's 302 pages. So we are following, let's just read the back because every time I try to like summarize this for anything, I'm just all over the place. Everyone in Sleepy Hollow knows about the Horseman, but no one really believes in him. Not even Ben Van Brunt's grandfather, Brom Bones, who was there when it was said that the Horseman chased the upstart Ichabod Crane out of town. Brom says that he's just the legend, the village gossip. More than 30 years after those storied events, the village is quiet place. 14-year-old Ben loves to play Sleepy Hollow Boys, reenacting the events Brom once lived through. But then Ben and a friend stumble across the headless body of a child in the woods near the village, and the discovery makes Ben question everything the adults in Sleepy Hollow have ever said. Could the Horseman be real after all, or does something even more sinister stalk the woods? And like, Christina Henry for me just does everything that I need. Like, it's a good story. I feel like I enjoy the plot points very well. It always horrifies me. It scares me. This is technically a horror. Are all of these books a horror? These 2 are technically fantasy, but they definitely had horrific elements to them where I'm like, this is not for kids. It's just not. These are not kids' stories. These are all like toughies. Okay, so we have this. I'm going to get on my phone. I'll show you some B-roll. Maybe we can find a... Ooh, there's part 2, part 3. There's 3 parts to this story. I love when books are broken up like that. We're going to see if we can find the original one. I'll read the book. We'll touch base again, and I will tell you how I felt about this. And we'll see if Christina Henry is indeed a favorite author. Let's go. And we're back. It's only been 2 days since I read the book, but it's been much longer since I filmed the intro, since I bulk film. However, for you, it's only been a second. So we are here. I have officially finished Horseman by Christina Henry. I read it in 2 sittings, basically. I read this chunk, and then I read this chunk. Before I sat down to read this, I actually listened to the audiobook for The Legend of Sleepy Hollow by Washington Irving. I'm going to put this up here. It was fine. It was racist. It wasn't as scary as I wanted it to be. It wasn't as obsessed with the Horseman as I wanted it to be. It was very much more focused on Ichabod Crane and how he came into the town of Sleepy Hollow and he tried to court Katrina von Tassel, and his romantic rival was Abraham Brom Bones Van Brunt, okay? And because Brom really didn't like Ichabod and really loved Katrina, he pretended to be the Horseman and ran him out of town. Or at least, like, that's kind of what it's insinuated. In the actual story, it just says that Brom kind of laughed whenever it was brought up, that he really didn't think that there was a headless horseman. However, it's not explicitly stated that he did that. Now, this book, I was kind of hoping going into it that it was going to be more Christina Henry than it was going to be the actual story. But it turns out it's kind of just the actual story a little bit. So we are talking about Brom Bones from the original story, his grandson. And his grandson stumbles upon the body of a little boy that lives in the village, another little boy with his head missing and also his hands. Like, this is definitely a tale of Sleepy Hollow. It definitely comes after the events of The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Absolutely, it plays with the characters because it's just 2 generations removed. I enjoyed this story. I enjoyed it very much up until the ending. And I don't like the ending, but only because it felt like not everything was tied up together. Like, it felt like things were just kind of separate, and like, there was no like moment where it was like, and it all comes together. It was just like, okay, here's a resolution, and here's a resolution, and there's an answer, and there's an answer, and we're done. And it was just like, oh, it was a very unsatisfying ending. I really enjoyed the storytelling. I enjoyed the characters. I enjoyed the atmosphere, the creep factor, the thrillingness of it all. It was good. The atmosphere, the scare. It wasn't extreme. Like, I'm trying to like, it was thrilling. It was very thrilling. It wasn't scary like I didn't want to read because I was scared. I wanted to, it was like a roller coaster. Like, there were moments where my heart would speed up and I was very excited about what was going to happen, and kind of horror also, because like, the more you think of it, the more detailed you get in your mind with the imagery, like, the more horrific it is. It was very horrific, actually. There's a lot of like gore and like body, I don't want to say body horror, but it was very gory, and it's described, and it's icky, and like there are also like demonic things, and they're gross, awful monster things. So like, it was very much what I expected to feel from a Christina Henry, that kind of scary, thrilling, horrific kind of thing. But I didn't like the ending. I just wanted it to be more of like a cohesive ending. All of a sudden there becomes a few bad guys, And I kind of liked that because it was almost like Near the Bone, where there was like a monster and then another monster, and you kind of like you were dealing with opposition from all sides, and it was scary. And this was kind of the same, and I enjoyed it, but I would have liked it better, I feel like, if the bad guys were kind of more cohesive. I felt like there wasn't a lot of logic in a lot of the bad guys, if that makes sense. So overall, I think I did really enjoy it. I just finished it, so I'm really hung up on how the ending was kind of a letdown for me, and I'm still trying to piece together why exactly. Like, oh, I know what I don't like. So there are two like monster bad guys, or what you think are bad guys, and then there's also like more of a human-esque bad guy, and I didn't like the human-esque bad guy. I feel like their involvement was unnecessary. Their involvement felt motiveless, and it was very irritating because why? Like, that was my big question when the review was happening and we were getting our whole little like monologue of explanation of things, and I was just sitting there like, but why? Why did you do this? And like, yeah, what? Why? And then there was the whole like, my grandparents' love has protected me for years. Like, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. That's weird. So when a villain really doesn't have a motive, especially like the humanish villain doesn't have a motive, I'm like, I don't really care that much. I really liked everything else. I liked how the other monsters were played out. I liked how the legends were played out. I liked how this kind of magical place of Sleepy Hollow is described, and it's not just described as being magical, but it has this whole like effect where like the people affect the land and the land affects the people, and it's really just like, it's really interesting. And I did enjoy it. I just felt like the villain was just a tad motiveless, but because that villain doesn't come into play until much later in the book, I really enjoyed most of the book until that character just at the end didn't have a motive. And so it's kind of hard to weigh out. Like, the ending does play like such a huge role in it, but I really enjoyed, I think, the idea of the Headless Horseman and where they took it and how it kind of played into Sleepy Hollow, and I did enjoy it. Especially considering that I didn't really like the source material. Like, it was fine, did what it had to do, and like, honestly, it got 3 stars because when the Horseman scenes were coming up, I was nervous. I was scared. I'm not going to admit it, especially listening to like the full cast audio book, and it's like a spooky story and there's music. Like, that was really cool. So it was really a good experience listening to it on audiobook, but I definitely think that this is worth a read. Horseman by Christina Henry. So to wrap it up, that makes 3, count 'em, 3 works that I have loved from Christina Henry. Horseman being the most recent. We also have Near the Bone and Lost Boys. I am technically, I guess, in the middle of her series, the Alice in Wonderland series. Is it called Alice in Wonderland or just Alice? I think it's just Alice, but I think I read the first one, Alice, and then the next one I think is Red Queen, and then Looking Glass, and I haven't read those 2. I'm eventually going to get there, but honestly, you guys, I'm ashamed to admit it, but my TBR pile has just continued to grow. I'm supposed to be reading more than I'm buying. It just hasn't happened yet. I'm anticipating that to happen. Hasn't happened yet. So who knows when that'll get there, but officially Christina Henry is a favorite author. Let's hear it. We're enjoying her works, and more than likely anything that does come out in the future I will be purchasing, because I don't know how that makes it any different buying new works versus old works, but apparently that made sense in my brain. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you have a good rest of your day, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!